At the moment, if it's not physical, doctors find it very hard to measure conditions. They find it very hard to find the root problem, which is why we're struggling so much with mental health, because it's not physical, you can't see it. There's no actual chemical imbalance in the brain, you can't see a screwed up mind. But there are usually energetic issues behind it that stem from people's previous actions in the past, and then them usually judging that action from the past in the now. Oh, I wish I could have treated that person better, or I feel awfully guilty for what I did back then. And we do hold on to these things for years, some of us for lifetimes. And that is why we usually see reoccurring, and we'll talk about the heart chakra, reoccurring heart conditions in people who have this issue. Maybe in the past we perhaps treated a loved one with total and utter disrespect, and we weren't conscious that we were doing that in the moment. Perhaps we were coming from a controlling, manipulative mind or something, because we weren't enough in ourselves, we didn't feel enough in ourselves to send love to them, but instead we send out perhaps control and manipulation because we don't have any love to give, because we're not loving ourselves. And this can then cause regret, especially, for example, if this partner dies, or there's an end of a relationship and that partner leaves and there's a distance apart from you, or there's actually a physical distance apart from you because she's dead or whatever, or he's dead. And we can really struggle to be able to heal that wound, because it's almost like, oh, I wish that person was in my life again so that I could tell them how sorry I am for the way that I treated them, or how I wish I could show them how much I've changed my actions and what a different person I am. And it's exactly that point, which is why we're the ones that are responsible, that have to be able to heal that wound within ourselves. The other person may never come back into your life, you may never get another opportunity to see them. And because you're such a different person now, and because you're the guilt of these experiences and the guilt of the way that you treated said person, because of that guilt you've changed so much. But in some senses you're still holding on to the guilt, still holding on to the shame of it. And this is what's causing a lot of heart conditions in people. It is this inside out approach, talking consciousness first, biology second, rather than this outside in approach, which is we're just the body, screw consciousness, we're not going to look at that because we don't even believe it's real. Well, we haven't dived into it enough, and that's the way that science is looking at things right now. And unfortunately that leads to a lot of people finding a lot of issues with themselves the doctors can't diagnose. And this is why, and this is, as we go forward into the future, this isn't alternative medicine, this is medicine in its truest form. This is getting to the root, the pranic energetic root. This is a science as to what action created your guilt or judgment or shame in the past, and why you're still carrying it forward to today, because you are such a different person now. I get it, this video won't be relevant for everyone, but it will be relevant for some. And it was relevant for me in my past, and is still relevant for me today. Sometimes we do get very attached to the guilt in our minds of the way that we've treated people before. And I only know this from my own experience. And even though we've completely changed and we're completely different people now, with one thing that's for certain is that we can't change our past, but we can change ourselves, and that's usually what people do. They grow and they become better people because of the guilt that they have, because of the way they've treated people, for example. They didn't know what they were doing. They were never loving enough in themselves to send love to that person. So they just tried to control and manipulate them so that this person felt safe. But that comes down to our own selves and our own self-worthiness and our own self-esteem. That's another issue. So looking at the heart chakra then, if there are some blockages perhaps, That's usually why. We're looking at really this from a standpoint of attachment. This is an attachment issue. The heart chakra is linked to love and attachment. And when I say attachment, I mean internal attachment, attachment to a past experience, the attachment being guilt or shame, almost like you feel like you have to punish yourself for the way that you were before, which is nonsense. Understandable because of the way you were before, but absolutely nonsense 5, 7, 10 years down the line that you're still holding on to this thing that has such a tight grip to you when you're a totally new human being. But it is holding on to this that causes these heart conditions, physical and pranically in the chakra system. You're blocking the flow of prana to your heart, is essentially what's happening. Because you're attached to the pain and the guilt that you're doing to yourself now, you're self-punishing, and that closes the heart. That gets the heart chakra going, yo, you're gonna have to love yourself, brother. You've made a mistake. That's fine, we all do that. But now stop punishing yourself for that 5, 3, 10, 5 years down the line for something that you can't change now. You've done the change that was needed. And by that I mean you changed yourself. What an amazing feat. And now in that, send love to yourself. And I've just got the conscious reflection from the camera, there's a timer on it. And the conscious reflection from that timer that I'm talking about the right thing is, it said the time, as I looked up then, 0909, which is essentially a conscious reflection, numerologically, of new beginnings. And I needed to make this video today because it's a leapfrog for me too, to create a new beginning in my life and forgive myself for this attachment to the guilt in the past of ways that I've treated people. Because it's not fair on me, and it's not fair on you, and you need to be able to forgive yourself. If this attachment, this mental attachment to the guilt in the past arises, or the person to whom you were not great to pops up in your consciousness, or you see them in dreams, there's one tip, one amazing thing that you can do, and that is get really honest with yourself. And as this person or thing or whatever pops up in your consciousness or attachment, firstly we can watch it just pass, but that's not necessarily the easiest thing to do sometimes because we are so gripped to it. The mind just draws us in and we start going into this crazy mental misery mode. What we can do is we can, as this person, holding this person as a thought, as a mental image in our third eye, as we close our eyes, we can say, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. And as we do that, not only do we change our own consciousness, that will bring forgiveness from them and from their consciousness. Remember, it's consciousness first, biology second. So even if they're dead, they're still consciousness, and they will receive that healing message. And it's time for you to heal too. That felt like it was needed.